types of problems. We have another one. Now this one has all the parts of a quadratic, but it's not in standard form at all. It's not equal to 0. The s squared doesn't come first, so let's rearrange it before we do anything. If we add 52 to both sides, and we put it as s squared plus 17s plus 52 equals 0, then it's in that standard form. We then would do our diamond with the 52 on top and 17 on the bottom. Now guys, not everybody's going to see what those numbers are that's going to work for that right away. So you'd have to list out the factors of 52. 1 and 52. 2 and 26. 3 doesn't go in there. 4 and 13. Up, 4 and 13. Add up to 17. So we have our numbers, 4 and 13. So we factor that into s plus 4 and s plus 13 equals 0. We find the opposites or solve these. The opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. The opposite of positive 13 is negative 13. And we put the answers in braces. Now guys, be careful. You have two negatives. The bigger the negative number, the actual number, then the less it's worth. Negative 13 is worth less than negative 4, so when you list them in order, negative 13, then negative 4. For the next one, everything's already in order. We don't have a GCF that comes out of all of it, so we just put the first one times the last one on top. That means it's going to be negative 48 on the top and 2 on the bottom. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 48, but add to give you 2. Most people see these pretty quick. It's going to be 6 and 8. The negative is going to have to be on the 6, the positive on the 8. That's going to factor into two sets of parentheses. Remember, when you have a leading coefficient, you have to repeat that 3x on both these without the square. You put those numbers at the back, minus 6 and plus 8, and then you factor out and cancel out GCFs that only work for one pair at a time. So there's a common factor of 3 for both these. There's no common factor between 3 and 8, so we would cancel this out. That would give us x minus 2. We bring down the 3x plus 8, and it's equal to 0. Now, this is the first one we had to solve where we're going to get a fraction answer, but I'm going to show you a very short way to do that if you'll watch this. We still do the opposite of negative 2, which is positive 2. On this one, we're still going to do the opposite of positive 8, which is negative 8. But because it has a number in front of x, we've got to divide by this number. So it's going to be the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8 divided by 3. You could still write out that equation. You could still solve 3x plus 8 equals 0. That is the shortcut, though. The opposite of the second number divided by whatever the coefficient is. We're going to put our answers in braces again. That's going to make it negative 8 over 3, comma 2, and there are your answers. Now we have 2 left. Both of these have a little bit more to them. One's got a fraction in it, one's got 2 fractions in it. A little bit bigger numbers on the second one just to make sure we practice a little bit harder problems. So let's get these last 2 knocked out. So when we look at example 9, we multiply that first times the last to get our top number for our diamond. It's going to be negative 10. Our middle number goes here on the bottom. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you negative 10, but add to give you 3. The two numbers that would work for that would be negative 2 and positive 5. You're going to set up your 2 sets of parentheses. Remember that when you have a leading coefficient, you're going to repeat that, but without the square. Then you're going to put these numbers at the back, so it's going to be minus 2 and plus 5. If you have any common factors for each individual term, then you're going to go ahead and cancel those out. That's going to leave you x minus 1 and 2x plus 5 equals 0. To get our answers that are going to go in our braces, we're going to take and do the opposite of these. So the opposite of -1 is +1. The opposite of +5 is going to be -5. And don't forget, because it has a number in front of x, you have to divide by that coefficient. So it's going to give you an answer of -5/2. Those answers go in your braces, negative first, then the positive, and you have the solutions. Okay, one last problem on this. Let's take a look. Oh, everything's out of place, guys. We got to rearrange this whole thing. So we're going to move the 3x over to this side. When we do, we're going to be adding 3x to both sides, and I'm going to line it up underneath the one that is a like term. That's going to give me 8x squared minus 6x minus 5 equals 4. I then need to move the 4 over as well. So minus 4 minus 4, that's going to be 8x squared minus 6x minus 9 equals 0, which that's the whole goal, is to get it set equal to 0 before you do anything. Now that we have it set equal to 0, we'll factor it. We'll multiply that first number times the last to get -72 for my top number. I'm going to have -6 for my bottom number, and I'm going to start looking through the factors of 72. Those would include 1 in 72, 2 in 36, 3 goes in there 24 times, 4 goes in there a total of 18 times, 5 doesn't go in there, 6 goes in there 12 times. Oh, 6 and 12 work because they are 6 apart. So we need one of them to be negative and one of them to be positive. Since the bottom number is negative, I need the bigger number to be negative, so it's going to be -12 and +6. So we're going to factor this into two sets of parentheses. 8x goes at the front of each parentheses without the square. These numbers go at the back, so -12 and +6. Now we have GCFs in both of these, but they're different GCFs. Between these two, we can take out a 4. Between these two, we can take out a 2. Those are all going to cancel because they're different. So that's going to be 2x minus 3, and this one is going to be 4x plus 3. Now, the last step is that solving part. It's doing the opposite and dividing. So the opposite of -3 is going to be +3 divided by 2. The opposite of +3 is going to be -3 divided by 4. Your answers go in braces. -3/4, comma, 3/2. Now, that's the last one on today's set of notes. If you have any questions, make sure you attend the help session, and I'll talk to you soon.